Okay, thank you very much, because I couldn't unmute my microphone from this end.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sandra, is that Sandra?
Yes, it's Sandra.
Okay, so Sandra has already mentioned my name. My name is Grace Lamont again, and I work with the U.S. Embassy Abuja, and I have served as the Alumni Outreach Coordinator for like 8 years, but presently I work on the IVLP Humphrey Exchange Program. But today I'll be delivering my opening remarks as a Fulbright alum. I see that all our esteemed panelists today are alumni, and I did mention I would like to sit in as an alum and not an embassy staff. It's an honor for me to be able to speak from this position. So today, our team is Choose to Challenge Gender Equality in Africa. I'm honored to also usher in our esteemed panelists who will be speaking and exploring more on this theme for today. But I just wanted to mention a little about why we celebrate International Women's Day. You all agree with me that over the years, we haven't had a lot of information about celebrating some of these days until in the recent century, when we started having a lot of people maybe interacting with people from outside the country, and they have come to realize that, well, women do a lot of wonderful things, and it's time for women to be celebrated. So International Women's Day is very important, not only for women, but as a global celebration, because it's a time set aside to actually remember a lot of things that women have gone through and what they have also tried to give back to the society. Women have faced a lot of things world over. I'll remain specific to Africa especially. We've had a lot of misrepresentations in different spheres of life, from economic to religious, traditional. Our cultures also didn't help matters in designing what the role of women should be, mostly a substitute to men in the society. So International Women's Day have helped to celebrate what women have done and have contributed to the society, especially Africa. So it's a special way that the world tells women that, yes, we acknowledge your impact, and we expect you to do more as well. This year it says choose to challenge. I'm sure people are wondering, what are we choosing to challenge? That's an indication that women actually acknowledge that these things are not easy to do, these things are not easy to embark on, but irrespective of that, women are still willing to put their head out there and then help also in building the world into a very important community or very important place. Also, they continue to challenge a lot of status quo around, irrespective of their gender. They do not want to remain where women, we shouldn't do what men are doing. So it's very important. International Women's Day, as some may misunderstand again, which is part of the misrepresentation, is not an opportunity for women to fight men. It's not an opportunity for women to fight other gender, but it's a collaborative effort, both men and women. I'm very impressed to see Dr. Sunday Agbonika as part of the panelists today as a man who will also be speaking about some of this inequality issue. So it's a way to encourage women to see that there are men also who are supporting them in all the ways that they're working towards making the world a better place. And then to also change some of this narrative that has come from God knows where. So today, as we look at some of these things, I would depend extremely on our panelists to actually encourage us and open up discussion on what are those things that we can do to actually encourage women to give their best and contribute to all spheres of the society, which is very helpful for us and also to look at ways in which people can work towards closing the gap of inequality in Africa. Lastly, I want to close by saying, for everyone participating in this call today, I hope that we can actively participate and lend a voice to changing the narrative on gender marginalization and some of these representations as well. So I wish us all the best as we start, as we go right into the discussion. And I'll be with you and I'll be listening, and I'll also contribute to it. Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for also mentioning that it's a discussion, because I know that a lot of people are waiting to, tear this topic apart, thinking it's supposed to be an argument. But I'm sure that my guests right now are going to toe this line to understand that despite having a variation of ideas, different points of views, we're here to discuss and forge a way forward. All right, so my guests to join me in doing justice to today's topic are Banke Ilori Oyeniyi, Ugochi Obi Diego. I hope I'm not murdering your names. I'm hoping that you'll be able to correct me when you come online. Dr. Sunday Agbonika as well. Okay, so Banke is a lawyer and a development professional. Ugochi is a social development and development strategist, while Dr. Sunday is a veterinary surgeon. All of which are Yali alumni and Mandela Washington fellows. All right, so if you're online, hello to Banke, Ugochi, and Dr. Sunday. Are you here with me?
Yes. Hi, Sandra.
Okay, hello, Banke. Hello.
Hi.
Ugochi, are you online?
Yes, I am. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Ugochi. Dr. Sunday.
Hello.
Hi, good to have you. Good to have you. Thank you so much. Okay, so before we go into it, I'm sure everyone wants to know, aside being Yali alumni and Mandela Washington fellows, we want to know a little bit about you in just a couple of minutes, 2 minutes each. Okay, let's start with the only man on the panel today, Dr. Sunday. Can you just run us through a brief, summary about yourself, aside being a Yali fellow?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening. Yes, I can hear you clearly.
So first of all, I consider it a privilege to be on this panel and to also be in this discussion and everything. And well, like you said, I should say who I am in 2 minutes, right?
Yes.
So, okay, that's one topic that many times I find hard to, but let me just do justice as best as I can. So first of all, I'm a veterinary surgeon. I'm a husband, I am a father, and then I'm a brother as well, and I have a sister. I have cousins, I have all of that. So basically that means I have men and I have women all around me in my life. I would also just talk about the fact that as far as work goes and as far as my inclinations career-wise goes, I am a vet surgeon, I'm a pet enthusiast, and my vision for life is to, as much as I can, to enrich human lives through pets. I grew up loving pets, I grew up around pets, and I saw how, for me, that was so beneficial to our growth, to the point that we had a dog while we were children, that till today our history as a family is never complete without. And so it's something that I would love to be able to give to the African community, the Nigerian community as well. And most importantly is the fact that my work, which qualified me for the Mandela Washington Fellowship and the RLC itself, is centered around trying to give children with special needs an opportunity at a more meaningful future. And the question is how? Like I said, I'm hoping to enrich human lives through pets, and I'm working at that daily. So We're
Okay.
incorporating animals in the healing of people through the phenomenon known as animal-assisted interventions.
Okay.
So
Thank
I
you
think
so
this
much.
is the brief about me.
Yes, thank you. All right, so over to you, Banke.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Banke Lorieni. Okay, I'm a lawyer. My work is centered around inclusive governance and legislative reforms. Um, and I've been working in that space and politics, right? I've been working in that for about 7 years now, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, so Ugochi. Ugochi, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you, but I wasn't able to unmute myself anymore.
Okay.
My environment is a bit noisy, so I decided to step out.
Okay.
Okay, so I create products and programs to solve certain development issues. So we have products for child safety, and we have programs also for reducing substance abuse. So I'm the author of a child safety storybook series, you know, basically visiting schools, teaching children, and also equipping teachers on how to reduce avoidable accidents affecting young people. Last year, we started this program on drug abuse because we're trying to solve that epidemic. It's really a serious situation here in Nigeria, but it doesn't look that obvious, But we're just trying to do our own bit by providing capacity development for the recovered drug users for now. Sometime later, it might develop to more, but for now, we're just on the aspect of capacity development for them.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so these are the professionals we have to discuss today's subject. Choose to challenge gender inequality in Africa. Africa, to be precise. All right, so let's get into the discussion proper. What is gender? I know everyone is looking for it. We're saying gender, gender, gender. All right, so Banke, can you lead us into this discussion today by telling us what gender is? Hello, Banke, can you hear me? Banke, can you hear me? Okay, so Dr. Sunday, if you're online, if you can hear me, please pick up from here.
Okay, hello.
Hello, Dr.
Can you
Sunday.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
So, well, sorry?
Okay, so Banke is back.
Okay, so...
No.
Okay,
you can
nice.
go on, please. So sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I guess it was like the setup of the meeting, but Dr. Sunday.
Okay, no problem. Sorry about that. Okay, so Dr. Sunday, let's have you.
Okay, so I would probably define gender as what you are born with, like more or less like the sex or the gender you identify with based on what you were born with. So based on birth, based on the reproductive organs, especially that you have at birth, a child could be said to be a boy or a girl. Over time, though, in our present day society, it's a lot more diverse, with people also having different definitions to it. But I'll say in simplest terms, gender is based on the reproductive organs that you are born with.
Okay, so Banke, do you have any a different opinion about this?
Yes, actually, gender for me is and based on like the general knowledge that we have on the issue, gender is something that the society gives to you by virtue of your sex. So sex is what, sex is biological. You're either a boy or a girl at birth, right? So, but gender comes by societal perspectives rather, and you grow into some set of roles and things that are expected of you to do as a boy, as a girl. So gender is a social construct. while sex, is a biological construct. So you give birth to a child, and you're either, oh, it's a boy or a girl based on the physical features that a person has.
Ugochi, do you have a different idea about what they're talking about now when we talk about gender? Do you have a different opinion about gender?
So I agree with Abanke. Gender is just basically, the social constructs and features and stereotypes attributed to the different sexes.
Okay.
So you know how we say, for example, so sex is a boy has a certain kind of private part, a girl has a certain kind of private part. Gender would be that a boy is not supposed to go into the kitchen, in quotes, while a girl is supposed to be the one to. So those are societal constructs, societal roles for these different sexes. I don't know how many people remember that that nursery rhyme that they made all of us to know how to sing. Mommy in the kitchen cooking rice, daddy in the parlor watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, construct.
Okay, so what are gender biases in relation to gender advocacy?
Who should go first? Okay.
Yeah, Ugochi is still on.
So bias again, it's just a preference of something over another. So in the context of gender, it's the preference of one gender over the other. This can happen both ways, but majorly what we find is that women get the shorter end of the bargain. So many times the male folk tend to get certain privileges, certain benefits, as opposed to women. I mean, some days ago, I was reading on Facebook, someone was sharing her experience, and she said she had gone to apply for work somewhere, and she mentioned that she had a toddler. The baby wasn't even a toddler yet. And the employer said, no, we don't take married women, not to be a married woman with a toddler. So you can see now that's a so you would rather have an unmarried lady or a male as opposed to a married woman with a little child. So you can see that it's not there are different rules for the different sexes. So that was just a practical example of bias.
Okay. So Dr. Sunday, what do you think about gender biases?
Well, gender biases, like has been said, has first of all stems from the cultural roles and everything that have been there for ages, for generations and all. First of all, I'd like to say that when all of this came to be, which was generations ago and all of that, yes, it was at that point something that was quite valid based on the societal conditions at the time. So it was good that there was the definition of the fact that the men were able to go out and fetch food, the women were able to. But I think over time, the world has changed, we have evolved, we have developed in a lot of ways. But then many of this ideology remains the same and have also not been reviewed. You find out, for example, that in countries, as the years go by, they review, what do they call the constitution, review a lot of all these other things that have to do with ideology. But then the ideology of gender and gender roles and all of that never changed and remained the same. And that has over time become what has boxed or given women the shorter end of the leash, as Ugochi said earlier. But then not putting into consideration that women are also now able to effectively contribute to society, sometimes even better than the men.
So where does gender advocacy come in?
So gender advocacy now is being able to give a voice to the women, is being able to give equal opportunity to the women, to know that the women can also lead and in fact do it much better than the men. Sometimes it just depends on the person who is more fitted for the job. So not exactly, not based on the person's sex now, but then based on the person's capacity. We see today, for example, that Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is leading one of the biggest trade organizations in the world. And it's because she's found competent enough to handle the job. So if that was supposed to be something that was just given to a man, for example, then she loses that role. And we probably may not be able to get the input that she can bring to that organization.
Okay, so Banke, As a lawyer, I'm leaving this one to you. I really would like to get your opinion on the differences between gender equity, equality, and women empowerment.
Okay, so the three of them are similar in a lot of ways and are sometimes used interchangeably. But equality is all about having equal platforms, and providing equal opportunities for both genders, or as many genders as your society decides to have in some instances. Why equity is all about taking into consideration the peculiarities of both genders and making provisions along those lines. So a practical example is equality is, making schools accessible to everyone, right? Both boys and girls. While equity is creating an enabling environment for boys and girls to thrive. So for example, for let me use something like period poverty as an example. So in a number of communities, some girls miss out on schools because they don't have access to sanitary pads and a conducive environment to take care of themselves when they're on their periods. So it means that girls would miss schools up to 5 days in a month, for example, in places where they can't afford sanitary pads. So equality would be, oh, we have built schools and are encouraging, both boys and girls to come. But equity will now be, we understand that these peculiarities exist. How about we ensure that girls have access to sanitary pads and a toilet and clean water to clean themselves up when they are on their period? So that's an example, a practical example of how equality is different from equity. Women empowerment is um, one of the means to achieving both. It's a means to an end, it's not an end in itself. So women empowerment is understanding that okay, these issues exist and how can we ensure that women can, take on roles in society. So an example of women empowerment would be okay, we have identified that women have access to lesser resources than men to expand their business. So how about we create a grant set up to support SMEs that are women owned? So it's an example and it's a means to an end, not necessarily an end in itself.
Okay. So which is more important in your opinion?
All three are important. There is none that we should say, oh, we can focus on this while we focus on that, because the gender gap will take us about 250 years to close. It means that I won't see excuse me, I won't see an equitable society in my lifetime, and I don't think my kids would too. So we need all
Why are
angles.
you saying that? Why do you say that? Sorry to cut you.
250 years. I mean, the average lifespan is how many years, right? Life expectancy, let's say you live in a developed country, the life expectancy is about 80 to 90 years, right? So
Okay.
by the time I'm 90, my kids are 90, that's 180 years already. So it's like maybe my third generation or something. And that if we're able to improve the tempo, because as it is right now, we're not even doing all that we can do because we're still having conversations as to which of the three is important, whereas we need like all three things to be going on simultaneously for us to even be able to, bridge that gap of 257 years in the first place. So all three are crucial, all three are important. And I always say that if we understood the gravity of the situation, then maybe we won't be having some conversations with respect to, should you be doing this? I mean, it's a pandemic, so to say. Looking at Nigeria, for example, it's the ninth most dangerous place in the world to be a woman. And we're still like negotiating, oh, should we do this? Should we pass this law? Should we pass that? So those are the conversations, with respect to which of the three is important. All three are important and should be going on simultaneously, essentially.
Okay. So before I engage the other panelists, I hope you've been enjoying the conversation so far. If you're just joining in, welcome. And today we are talking about choosing to challenge gender inequality in Africa. There is a lot to talk about, and we have started by defining terms that I know a lot of us are confused about. So if you're just joining in, this is your opportunity to get involved, get on board. feel at home already. And let's know the kind of thoughts. Let's know your thoughts on the issue at hand. Do you have a question? Do you have a contribution? Or, whatever you think you want to bring to today's discuss, please get involved already, okay? All right, so let's go to Dr. Sunday. Picking up from where we left Banke, gender equity, gender equality, and women empowerment, which is more important and why? Dr. Sunday, over to you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Unfortunately, though, the electricity here has gone up, so I think it's a bit darker and everything. But like Banker said and all, at the end of the day, they are all linked together, and it's kind of like saying you can't go one without the other. You can't go one without the other. My basic understanding of it as well from research and everything is the fact that gender equity is more of the process to achieving gender equality. And women empowerment just more or less is just caps it all up, if I'll put it that way. So at the end of the day, you can't separate one from the other. You can't say you are just going to stick with this and then leave the other. But they are all important, all intertwined, and all work together to bring, at the end of the day, a society where men and women are thriving and men and women are equally contributing.
Sure. Okay, so Ugochi, what are I know you've stated a little bit about some of the challenges that women go through, but I would like you to really delve into some, because I know that we've had this argument over and over. A lot of people, some men still are yet to grasp the gravity of some of the issues, the challenges that women face due to gender disparity. Can you lead us into some very crucial challenges that women go through?
If I'll just give a practical example that came up in one of the sessions safety professionals had sometime last year, when in the thick of the pandemic. And we're talking about people going back to school and safety procedures to put in place and all that. And I remember that one of our speakers, I think from Pakistan, she mentioned that because of this period where the lockdown happened and girls were back at home and families had now gotten used to the girls doing the chores, making sure everything was in order, the probability of these girls going back to the classroom was reducing by day. And so she was proposing that children had to resume school by September last year, because the more they stay at home and the more their parents see that, oh, they are so useful being at, so why are we sending them out to go to school? Then it becomes a problem. So if such a conversation is still happening as a 2020 and it's still even happening in 2021, that tells us that there's a problem. So it means that when families need to make a decision on who should go to school, they are saying, oh, this one shouldn't go, this other one should go. It is also the issue of pay disparity. Two people, a male and a female, holding the same position, but being paid differently. It shouldn't be. And then there's also the case of, the certain rules about being pregnant or not being pregnant, not able to take a job because you are single, or a married person leaves. If you are married because you're an employee somewhere, you shouldn't wear your wedding ring to work. All those sort of things, it shouldn't be really. It shouldn't be. Everybody should be treated equally. Opportunities available should be available to both parties, regardless of your biological makeup. What we should be looking at now is competence, ability to perform, ability to deliver. And once that is there, it really doesn't, other constructs don't matter. Really. So there is that gap in education, there's that gap in pay, and we're in a part of the world where certain things go wrong. They say women should be seen and not heard. They say, let's settle it as a family matter. Let's not bring it out there. All those sort of stuff. It's not good for us as a country, as a nation, and the world at large.
Dr. Sunday, I would really like you to, weigh in on this. As a man, what are some of these challenges you've witnessed? When you did your introduction, you talked about having women as well as men around you. So I'm sure you've noticed some of these challenges that women have to go through around you. Can you lead us into some of them so that, we can see from a man's point of view?
Okay, thank you very much for that. Like Ugochi was saying just now, one of the most important ways that plays out in society is, first of all, in the area of education. In certain families, you see that there is more preference for the boy child to be educated and less for the girl child. And especially in families where there seem to not be enough funds to be able to train the children, let me put it that way, at once. There is more preference to now have the male children educated and all, and then have the female children stay back home and take care of the house and do all the house chores and everything. Forgetting the fact that at the end of the day, you never can tell which child even turns out to be, which child even turns out to have better opportunities in life, or which child turns out to do better or do best in life. So we, for example, have seen circumstances where a parent gave a lot more attention to a particular child because he was a boy, and then the child turns out to be a child that gives the parents heartache every day. Turns out to be someone at the end of the day that the society really would not want to welcome in so many ways because of the person's character. But then there are a few cases like that I've seen, for example, that at the end of the day, the girl child or the females that they had in the family already didn't have a good education. And then the male child, who now was the one the entire family was looking upon, or the male children that the family were looking upon, were not exactly living up to expectations. So at the end of the day, it's more important to rather, first of all, it's as simple as getting the number of children that you know you can cater to. Some people just have children without being able to even cater to the numbers they have. And as they say in Nigeria nowadays, school fees is the new family planning. So plan your family well, have the number you can train, and train all of them. Give all of them equal opportunity. And in the future, you don't know which child does best. You don't know which child will be able to even make your child's life much better.
Okay, so Dr. Sunday, I really wanted you to talk about this area. I think I noticed something going on social media recently when it concerns the DNA thing, and then we all know that recently the issue, the rise of cases of divorce right now. I'm sure Banker will weigh in as a lawyer. The rise of divorce right now, I think someone told his wife, I think someone was advising women. I saw this recently online, and the person was advising women to just stick through whatever is going on, because at the end of the day, they'll get divorced, they'll live miserably and unhappily, while the man will move on and get married. So you're a father, you're a man, and I know there are a lot of men watching right now. What do you think about this notion that our society has propagated over and over and over time? Don't you think this is a challenge that women have to go through as well?
Let me first say this. Like someone I met some time ago was so passionate about educating the boy child. Educating the boy child to grow up to be someone who sees society differently, and especially sees women differently from the regular social construct. Because at the end of the day, we are all, first of all, humans. It's just the fact that I, for example, was born with the male sex organs, and then society now says, like has been said already, I'm a man, and then I should this, I should that. But then before you were born, we each had the same probability of being born a boy, a girl. We were probably all able to. The person who now is a man could probably have been a woman. The person who now is a woman could probably have been a man. It all just depends on how you came out. So it's very important for us to know that the woman equally has a chance to thrive. And for me, I feel like if you are in any place that you cannot thrive, the best thing to do is to step out from that place, whether it's work, whether it's marriage, whether it's whatever else. I've seen cases where women who had children and all of that, who were probably married or not married, but had children and all, were still able to get married and into homes that they really, really enjoyed at the end of the day. So it's more about the person that you are going to meet. So it's not, the conversation should not be about not stepping out because you will not have who to marry or all of that at the end of the day, that you just be there and miserable. But then the conversation is, are you thriving where you are? If you are not, for me, my advice would be step out from there and then find a way to get into or find someone who understands where you're coming from and who would rather allow you to thrive. At the end of the day, relationship is all about two people coming together and agreeing. So it's the agreement factor that matters. And there are people, trust me, there are men out there that are understanding.
Okay. So Banker, I want you to just weigh in shortly, quickly into this challenges that women face as regards gender disparity.
Okay. First, am I still going to be addressing the divorce conversation, or I shouldn't bother?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So
please do.
The structure of marriage as it was initially, I think Dr. Sunday also made reference to that. The structure of our society previously can no longer thrive. It's no longer sustainable for women to be considered in a certain manner or to be looked upon in a certain manner. Like, this is 2021, so I mean, a lot of things have to change. And unfortunately, if the structure as it is not sustaining the other gender, like, the other half of the world, then maybe we need to reconsider how that structure is made. Currently, 50% of homicides involving women are by intimate partner violence. So that means that 50% of the cases where women are murdered, it's their spouses or their boyfriends and all of that committed the murder. So that tells you a lot of things. Also, with respect to like having the issues that affect women in society, Ugochi has made mention of some of those, and there are also issues such as harmful cultural practices, so FGM, child marriage, inability of women to inherit properties in some parts of Nigeria and even the continent at large. So some cultures still say, "Oh, you're a woman, so you can't inherit this property." And what happens is that the access to resources that women have is reduced, because now your brother or your male relative is now set. He has more resources to do business, to support political candidates, to do whatever he wants to do than you do. And unfortunately, sometimes these things are now institutionalized. For example, in the penal code, that's the laws of the northern part of Nigeria. The laws, like, a husband can discipline his wife, like can give his wife mild beating, and we are trying to amend that law in 2021, and it's difficult. So, sometimes when people say, "Oh, women are just being hysterical," I feel like we don't identify our privilege, or we feel like because this is how my surrounding is, everybody has it that way. No, a lot of women are going through other challenges that we just need to make the world a better place for everyone across board. There's this I can't remember the philosophical school of thought that says that, the minimum level a society should aspire to should be a level where no one wants to go below. So as an individual, I should think that, oh, so if anything happens to me and I have it worse, how worse do I want to have it? How worse is the minimum level? And that's where we should start building from. So a society where everyone would have basic rights and basic opportunities to aspire, I don't think that's too much to ask. I also wrote something. Okay, I saw something on social media as well. It's an interesting place. We see a lot of things, and somebody was asking a question that the women you are complaining about today, who raised them? Was it not the mothers that you feel were, so enduring? And for those mothers that raised their daughter in a certain way, it means that there are some things that they are telling her, see, you need to, I have gone through this so that you will not go through it, and so that you will enlighten yourself and educate yourself. So it's not a case that whenever we talk about divorce rates, we're always talking about what women are not doing. It has always been like that, always the blame game, even from, like, the Bible, for example, just making a reference that Adam was like, "Oh, it's the woman you gave me, that gave me the fruit, oh, me, I had nothing to do with it," and it's like the society always, they'll just always find a reason to blame a woman. So the marriage is not working. You're not thinking, nobody's asking, how couldn't the husband successfully keep the home together? As a man, shouldn't you be able to, it's always, what did the woman do wrong? So if the marriage is working, if the woman is expected to make the sacrifices. If the marriage is not working, it's still the woman is expected to make it work. So what exactly is the role of the man? So which is why I say that the way marriage is constructed in our society, we need to rethink it, because it's 2021 and things have changed. So I feel like if you are not on the bus has already left. You just need to find a way to move
Right.
forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so why is gender a concern in creation and implementation of program designs?
Still me?
Yes.
Okay. So that's called gender mainstreaming. And it's
Okay.
important because women, the dynamics that women bring to conversations has been overlooked over time, which means that when you're planning programs, it is always easy for you to forget, the female dimension of it. Or I mean, you're preparing a structure and you're not taking into consideration issues affecting women, which is why, for example, Nigeria leads uh, Nigeria has one of the highest cases of maternal mortality in the world. You look at it, that societies where women have been engaged as part of developmental process, they have focus is placed on infrastructural development, because the women know that if there's no water, I'm the one that has to go to the stream. If
Yeah.
there is no electricity, I'm the one who has to find a way to, iron my kids' clothes and all of that. So they pay attention to those social infrastructural issues. But societies where women are not part of the process have issues such as leading in maternal mortality rates in the world. And which is why I think it's important for you to really integrate a woman in the planning process. Taking an example of, I love the fact that which also made reference to things that happened during the lockdown. A practical example in Nigeria was when the president was instituting the COVID response, the national COVID response team. There was only one woman on the team, and there were like maybe 15 men or something like that. And what happened was that for people who were responders to sexual and gender-based violence, I know particularly for people who worked in that space in Abuja, they would be trying to go and rescue a woman who is with her abuser, and the police would stop them on the road and say, "Oh, they've given us a list of emergency response workers, or what did they call them, frontline workers, and SGB responses is not part of it." Or, a woman is trying to get access to, like, "Oh, sorry, pregnant women are not excluded from this." If it were to be an instance where women were part of the planning process, then they would say, "Ah, no, you did not, this is an issue that affects women, and we haven't taken that into consideration." So what happened was that every time SGBV workers had to go and rescue women, they would have to now call the commissioner of police, who would now have to call the men and say, "Let them go, they are going to attend to an issue." If it were an instance where women were part of the planning process, they would remember to put, that input. So what happens when you exclude women from the planning process is that issues affecting women take the back burner, because it's not because men are trying to be wicked or something. It's just because it's not their reality. And when something is not your reality, it's easy for you to just think it doesn't happen, which is the same thing that, happens with this gender conversation. I speak with a lot of men who say, "But my sisters have it easy. I treat my wife like my equal. My mom, this." That's great. And I'm glad that you are in that space, but it's a bubble. You just need to identify your privilege. Because if your sister happens to get into a community where you are not, she'll be treated like every other woman in that community. Nobody will care that, you supported her every step of the way, or that the family, or that she has a doctorate, or whatever, whatever. Nobody will care about that. If you get into an environment where your ideals are not the reality, she's going to be treated like every other woman, which is why it is also important to ensure that, all round development happens in the society.
That's powerful. I don't need to, add more. I wanted to also mention when you talked about the challenges that women go through, that I realized that a lot of women need to take, when it comes to traveling out now, I think a lot of women are still facing the challenges of if they needed to change their names on their international passport, or they need permission from their husbands to travel or something, or even own properties these days. Ah, okay, Ugochi, over to you. How do you think cultural beliefs and religion has affected gender equality, equity in Nigeria?
You need to let her unmute herself.
Okay, Ugochi.
Like the old starts to allow her unmute herself. I have that challenge. Okay.
Okay, so unmuted now. Okay, so this
Okay.
is a very, very important question, and that is because we operate in a part of the world where a lot of people would rather believe what comes from the pulpits in their places of worship, as opposed to if it is coming from the government. And so, this is why the pulpit must make use of its platform properly. I normally say that to solve the challenges that we currently have, it has to be a multi-stakeholder approach, starting from the home to the school, to places of worship, to the workplaces, to government, media also. All these parties must work together, because if you want to handle it from only one side, it's not totally realistic. You know, just like what Banke said, you might be doing well in your own house, but if it is not going well in the school or in the workplace, it's still a problem. Or the media, you have done a good job of making sure that your boys are well balanced, they respect women. But then your boys keep watching the media. All the music videos keep showing them the opposite. All the adverts they see keep showing them the opposite. All the movies they're watching. So it's dissonance. Two people are saying two different things. So at some point, the one that has more noise take over the one that has lesser noise. So the pulpit of the various places of worship must use their platform to speak about these issues. When cultures in certain locations keep on projecting something else, you would see that people feel more bound. It's just like, we have certain parts of the country today, there are certain rites that must be followed for burial. Now, because it is culture and nobody has put any structure in place to put an end to it, by having future forward conversations with these leaders at the grassroots, showing them the demerit and plotting a graph for how best they can still keep their culture without the harmful practices. So regardless of if you have a PhD, you've gotten all these fantastic qualifications and experience outside the country, you are still subjected to that local culture. So it's really important that it is sorted out from those two places. Of course, the other places are very important, but our cultural leaders, our religious leaders must begin to use their platform positively. Something happened last year. My family had to do something in the village, and I remember being upset at some of the traditions that were following a burial. And I wrote a post on Facebook saying, Omenala, which is culture in Igbo, needs to move with the times. Because this is 2020, 2021, for crying out loud. Certain things that are no more serving us need to be addressed. And because you know that certain people get certain advantages, from propagating this thing. So maybe there are certain practices where somebody would need to be paid, or certain gifts would need to be given. So when it seems that you are taking away that opportunity for them to get that those gifts, those benefits. So how about we take it from the root, have this conversation. How else can we maintain culture without the harmful practices in it? How else can maybe this gift or whatever it is that you feel you are benefiting from it, how else can it benefit the entire community as opposed to just a few sets of people? When we begin to have those kinds of conversations, it begins to change that mentality from the grassroots. And as we begin to do that over time, what would happen is we'll be phasing out those practices that are not taking us anywhere.
Okay, so Dr. Sunday, what do you think? What roles do you think they can play to aid the transition we are now witnessing in Africa and the world over?
So Ugochi has said it has done justice already to this, which is, like she talked about, engaging the people who are seen to be respected in the cultural sphere, in the religious sphere, and then also getting them to understand these things. Just like Banke said, getting them to understand that their wives, their daughters, and all of that are people who are also within this, let me use the language, this gender that is being put down for these reasons. Letting them to understand that their wives, their daughters, today we have a country, let me use Nigeria now to talk about this. We have a country today that we have a lot more of intermarriages, intercommunal marriages. So people are now marrying from different parts of the world, different parts of the country. I'm from Kogi. I'm married to somebody who is from Borno, for example. So now would they, for example, as the traditional rulers want or leaders, want to see that their daughter goes to that kind of place and is subjected to some things because that was the culture and all of that? Wouldn't they also want to stand against? So if that's the way it is, then the conversation also now should be drawn. It's first of all getting them to see that something could be done to their wives, their daughters, and all of that, that they may not like, for example, because it is said to be culture. And then letting them know that, okay, then bringing it back to them now to let them understand that in our own culture also, let us have a conversation. This part of the culture, why don't we change it? Why don't we do this? Because like Ugochi has rightly said and all, at the end of the day, it's a multi-dimensional issue, and one that the people or the places where people are really getting their information from, or the people that are being respected, whose opinions are respected, carries a lot more weight. So cultural leaders need to understand this as well and be able to stand up and speak for it. Religious leaders need to understand this as well and be able to stand up and speak for it. So that at the end of the day, we have people who are, in fact, it is so bad that in some places, in some religious fairs, churches, mosques, and all of that, the women are not able to also stand up.
Yeah. So what would it take to get more women in leadership positions? For example, more, okay, I know that we have some women pastors out there, but what would it take to get more women in leadership positions, especially in the Nigerian political arena, where they may be able to influence policies that affect women positively?
First of all, I would say would be for women to continually develop themselves beyond the social constructs that limit them, and find how to build themselves to the point where it is almost impossible to be able to get to put you down as a woman. I wouldn't want to be specific about it, but then I am also I'm an alumni of an association, for example, that currently has a woman leader. And just days ago, she was writing on Facebook and saying how when she was trying to run for presidency, some men within the association tried to vehemently pull her down, talk her into getting to relinquish, in fact, to give up the idea of standing in for presidency. But then she persisted and she won. Why did she win? Because it was clear and glaring for a lot of people to see her track record, which has been impeccable in so many ways and on so many fronts. So it was hard to be able to get to put her down. So why was this person trying to talk to her and everything? They were trying to do it because they saw her as a force, and a force that if they don't find how to shut down, will be able to rise up. But then they couldn't shut her down. And today she's the president of that association, and she's doing quite well. So the first thing will be for women to look beyond the definitions that you've been given, to do all you can to develop yourself.
Okay, so quickly, Ugochi and then Banke, just quickly chip in. We're rounding off. We just have a few minutes, 2 minutes to wrap up. So Ugochi, quickly, what do you think we could do to have more women in, in the political arena? And also, immediately she's done, Banke, please pick up.
Okay, so I'll say that Dr. Sunday has already mentioned one of it, and the next one will be from the aspect of funding. Funding, because for taking a political position in this country, the cost is really high. So I saw something on LinkedIn some days ago, and there's a platform, I think Elect Her. They've been able to pull together some funding that would support women that will be vying for elected position come 2023. And it starts from something like this, so that when the women are available, they are ready to go. Funding shouldn't now be something that will pull them back. Because a lot of women worry, how am I going to put all the bills in property? So, so and so person has more money to bankroll the process. Then they don't lose hope. So they haven't even started and they've already lost hope. But with opportunities like that available, it encourages them that, okay, there are people who believe that we can do something and who have pulled funding together to support our journey. And so I think that that funding is very important. Critical what Dr. Sunday mentioned about being exceptional. The way you are now exceptional and there's no funding to push some of the things you need to do, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm happy.
Okay.
I was happy when I saw that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Banke.
Yes. I agree with, just to add to what they have said, and to also point out that men don't have to be exceptional to do anything. They just have to
Okay.
have money. You know, money is important in Nigeria's elections. Like, you can literally not have anything and just have money. So that's just a joke, just an aside. So apart from,
Yeah.
so add to what Dr. Sunday Ajiguchi has said, and Gucci has said, we also need to ensure that we have legal frameworks that support women. I said that it's not that women are not trying. In the last
Mm-hmm.
election, 3,000 women got on the ballot, that they were able to scale through
Yeah.
primaries to get on the ballot. But how many people actually won
Mm.
elections? How many women won elections? So we need the legal frameworks. Affirmative action, for example, is very critical. I know some people have said affirmative action, but affirmative action is not the end. It's the means to an end. It's like if you're not,
Mm.
if you are sick, for example, you need medication to get better. Affirmative action is medicine to fix this gap in political participation. It's very
Mm.
important because currently we have less than 5% participation politically in Nigeria for women. And that's a problem. That's a sickness that affirmative action can fix. So, amendment to the Electoral Act, for example, mandates political parties, to field more women candidates. A minimum of 35% would be a starting point. That's not the end, but since we don't have anything, let's start with 35%. People say, oh, women can aspire to do more. We know, but put this at least 35%. Put it there. We have a national gender policy.
Mm.
Implementation of national gender policy is also critical. Amendment of the laws that are against women. So look at the example of the PDP woman leader in Kogi State who was burnt alive due to her participation in politics. The matter is still, pending. They haven't been able to arrest suspects. When women see those kind of things, that you could be burnt alive for daring to have a voice, you could be
Mm.
sexually harassed by your party officials for daring to step out. Those things are
Mm.
scary. I'm not saying that, I'm sure that maybe politicians have their challenges too, but the challenges that women have are peculiar. Your chances are that your political party chairman won't try to rape you as a man, if you're running for office. But these are things that women candidates face, and
Mm-hmm.
these are conversations that we need to have. So,
Yeah.
developing yourself as a woman, money is the bicycle of Nigerian politics. We also need to have a framework that ensures that, a legal framework, that ensures that women can aspire to leadership positions.
Okay, so someone is asking, how can we change the narrative? Right now, we have all of these challenges here. So, if all of our panelists can weigh in bit by bit, quickly, because we are already behind time and we just have a couple of minutes to go. So let's just do justice to one or two questions and take one or two comments. So someone is asking quickly, how can we change the narrative? So Banke, quickly, and then
Okay.
Dr. Sunday,
First,
you can pick up.
okay. You have to have these conversations with your community at your community level. We sometimes shy away from the conversations that we need to have. You see that something is happening to a woman and you just take your face because she's not your sister. Tomorrow you might not be there and it could be your sister. So we need to have, you see some of your male counterparts who are talking down on women, who are saying, "Ah, what does she have?"
Mm-hmm.
Or she probably didn't get the job based on merit. She probably slept her way through. If women could achieve more by sleeping their way through, don't you think we'll have more women leaders today? I mean, we've been around for centuries. So when people
Mm.
have those kind of conversations that are socially detrimental to protection of the rights of women, you need to choose to challenge those conversations and say, no, don't say that. Don't say that on my watch. Do you know what she has done? Do you know how, everybody has been talking about exceptional women. To even
Mm.
aspire to be anything, the foundation is for you to be exceptional. So if you see a woman who has gotten to a place, chances are that she's already an exceptional person. And the next thing is not for you to talk her down. So challenge those conversations that promote those gender stereotypes. I think that's a good way to start.
Okay, Dr. Sunday.
Okay, so just to add to what she said, let's having such conversations like we're having now as well. And I'm sure that
Mm-hmm.
for this conversation, we have men listening as well. We have women, we have men all
Yeah.
listening in together. So having these conversations and all is something that is also helping to give a voice to this topic. And people are listening, people will listen. And also getting to, let me use the language, celebrate the women that are doing well. Celebrate the women who are like, I respect women like the banker who is here. I respect Ugochi. I respect Adekbe Jayoba and a whole lot of other women who are doing really well, who are standing out, and whose voices are constantly heard. And we are seeing that these are women who, beyond gender or anything, they are able to lead. In fact, sometimes while managing a home as a wife, you're still being able
Mm-hmm.
to do exceptionally well in the society, in your business, and all of that. So celebrating these women and being able to make men, other people, men especially, see that this your daughter, your wife, whoever can be as like these women also, for example, if given the opportunity, is another way that we can get to put this out there.
Okay, so in your opinion, we're wrapping up now. In your opinion, what's the way forward as a society, and what should we collectively choose to challenge? In there, kindly put in your own personal, individual choice of challenge.
Okay, so for me, I would say as a society, we need to challenge this whole gender inequality construct and get to see and know that just about anybody can do exceptionally well if given the opportunity. It's not about the gender, it's not about the sex, it's about you, who you are as a person, it's about what you believe in, your character and your journey. So that's that I would say on the general level. And then for me as a person, like I said, I have women around me. So for me, I also do believe in gender inequality. But for my own personal work, what I choose to challenge is the plight of the disabled child or the plight of the special needs child. That is what my personal work is centered on. That's what I choose to challenge. So thank you very much. It was really nice being here.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, Ugochi, in 2 minutes, what do you choose? Or 1 minute, rather. I've been told that we are out of time already. So, 1 minute, Ugochi. What should we collectively choose to challenge? And what do you individually or as an individual choose to challenge?
Okay, so as a group and as an individual, I would say we should all choose to challenge gender inequality. As a parent, ensure that you are providing equal opportunities for both the boys and girls in your house. As a teacher in your school, ensure that the students, both male and female, they are not having different experiences. They are having the same experiences as much as you can. As a religious leader, use your platform to educate the people who listen to you. These people take your word as gospel, so you might as well make use of it properly. Then as someone in the media, we've got to be very intentional about the content we are putting out there, because this content is everywhere. If we're not putting the right information, it is still twisting what is going on in the minds of our young people. And if we become deliberate about changing these things across all fed, to a really large extent, would reduce gender inequality.
Banke, over to you. Same question.
So, choose to challenge the desire to interrupt women when they are sharing their issues. So, for example, women are talking like this is how this affects me, but you as a man, you decide that no, 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 I have different opinions. I think this is what it is. So the next time a woman says, this is my issue, choose to challenge the desire to counter her. Just decide to listen, make sure that you lend a listening ear and actually understand what our issues are. Choose to challenge a culture that has been constructed against women. Choose to challenge patriarchy and how it affects our society. So that's it.
All right. So thank you to all our panelists. You've been so wonderful. And I'm sure everyone has gained one or two things from today's discussion. I'll be handing over the mic now to AGK Abali on behalf of North Central region of Yali to give our closing remark. Okay, so Matthias. Okay, so Matthias AGK, pardon me. Matthias AGK, over to you for the vote of thanks. Is your mic still Okay, so unmute AGK. Try to unmute yourself quickly. We are behind time already. Okay, so
I've done that.
all right.
Hello, can you,
Right.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
So, on behalf of Yali Alumni North Central Zone, headed by Mr. Mayoko Adioti as the regional coordinator, the executive of which I'm part of, we want to use this opportunity to thank everyone who have took our time to attend this visual event in commemoration of International Women's Day. Thanks to our speakers, Sunday Agbonika, Adebanke Lori, and Ugochi Obie Diogu. You have taken your time to address this gender inequality in our society today. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Grace Lamo for finding time to attend this event out of our busy schedule, not forgetting our national body, executive president, and other regional coordinators. And finally, alumni, thank you for engaging with more professional development.
Okay. All right. So thank you, AGK. Thank you, everyone who has been part of today's discussion. I see that you know that we cannot exhaust this topic in 1 hour, right? We've been streaming to YouTube and the replay will be up on our YouTube page. So let's continue that conversation in the comment section. We'll be going through whatever we can, our panelists as well. You'll be getting the link to today's live show, which will have its replay on our YouTube page. So please feel free, let's continue this dialogue because communication is the way forward. And I'm hoping that we've been able to do justice to today's topic. Thank you so much, everyone. And this is how we wrap up today's discussion. All right. So have a great evening and let's do this maybe next month again on some other topic. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wanna make love on the moon, dancing to my tunes. Easy too much, it's not too much. I wanna be a forest, if wishes were horses. Easy too much, it's not too much. If I want body me, I do all kinds of practices. If I want body me, I'm all by my shoulder, I'm all by my foya, I'm all by me. I wanna be a billionaire, billionaire, I wanna be a billionaire, billionaire, Yala, anybody, anybody. I wanna wake up in a Lamborghini. I want to fly for Santorini, make bonito Sicily. Oh, yeah. If I want money, I do all kinds of practices. If I want money, I'm all by my shoulder, I'm all by my phone.